Now we will move to the discrete time exponential signals. We already know for continuous time exponential signals, x of t is equal to c into e power at, right? For discrete time, x of n is equal to c into alpha power n, where c and a are generally complex. C and alpha are generally complex. So in place of alpha, we can write e power beta, right? First, we'll see real exponential signals, then we'll see the complex exponential signals. First, real exponential signals, both C and alpha are real. We'll assume them to be real. So based on the value assumed by alpha, the exponential signals can be classified into 4 types. First one is alpha greater than 1. The next one is alpha is between 0 and 1. Then we have alpha less than -1 and alpha and uh, alpha between 0 and -1. So we have 4 different cases. When alpha is greater than 1, it becomes a growing exponential, right? C into, so alpha greater than 1, it becomes C into some value assumed by alpha, which is greater than 1 whole power n. 1, sorry, let us assume just a value of 2. So 2, right? Based on the value of n, how will it change? When n is equal to 0, we have 2 power 0. Then we have c, right? Let us assume this is our n equals to 0. This value is c here. This value here is c. Then when n is equal to 1, we have c into 2 power 1, that is 2c, right? Here we have 2c. Then what will the value of this one be? N is equal to 2, we get 4c. So c, 2c, 4c, then followed by n is equal to 3. So 8c, 16c. If you look at this, it keeps increasing exponentially. That is the case of alpha greater than 1. If alpha is in between 0 and 1, that is c into, let us say, 0.5 power n. When n is equal to 0, we have c. When n is equal to 1, we have 0.5 c. When n is equal to 2, we have 0.25 c. And n is equal to 3, we have 0.125 c, and so on, right? So the value keeps on decreasing, but it never goes below 0, right? It never goes below 0. It's always a positive value. Now this is the third case. It is in between 0 and -1. That is alpha is negative. Alpha is negative, and between 0 and -1. So c into, let us say, negative of 0.5 power n. When n is equal to 0, we have c. When n is equal to 1, we have negative 0.5 into c. When n is equal to 2, we have 0.25 into c. When n is equal to 3, negative 0.125 into C. So if you see, the sign is alternating between positive and negative. One positive, one negative. One positive, one negative. And it is decreasing from n is equal to 0, and it is decreasing as n increases, right? Decreasing as n increases, right? That is the decaying exponential assuming alternate signs, right? If alpha is less than -1, if it's less than -1, the form will be C into, let us assume, -2 power n. For n equal to 0, we have C. For n is equal to 1, we have -2C. For n is equal to 2, we have 4C, then -8C, and so on. Again, here we can see that this sign has been alternating between positive and negative, and the magnitude is increasing. C, 2C, 4C, 8C. That is, it is increasing exponentially. Right? So these are the 4 different types of exponential signals. So these are the different inferences we can get from the values of alpha. Now let us assume C and alpha are complex, right? We have C into alpha power n, right? That is the general form of exponential signals. Now let us assume C into alpha power n, and we will assume these to be complex. So complex, I'll write both of them in polar form, right? Magnitude into e power j theta, magnitude into phase. So I'll substitute these polar forms in the general expression. Now I have mod C. In place of alpha, I'm going to substitute mod alpha. So mod alpha power n, and then e power j theta into e power j omega naught power n, right? So what will it become? Mod C e power j theta mod alpha power n e power j omega naught n, right? So these two are my constants. So I'll place them here, and e power j theta, these two can be combined to be e power j omega naught n plus theta, right? E power j omega naught n plus theta. Now I'll write this as sine theta plus j sine cos theta plus j sine theta. Now based on the value of alpha, mod alpha, we can write it as, based on value of alpha, we can get 3 different types of signals. If alpha is equal to 1, the real and imaginary parts are sinusoidal. If alpha is greater than 1, they are sinusoidal signals multiplied by growing exponentials. If alpha is less than 1, they are sinusoidal signals multiplied by decaying exponentials, just as in case of continuous exponential signals. The next one is signum function. Signum function is defined as, or is denoted by SGN of t. SGN of t. So it is defined in 3 different ranges. for values for t is equal to 0, for t less than 0 and t greater than 0. For t less than 0 it is -1, right, here in this range. For t greater than 0 it is +1, and at t equals to 0 it is 0. This is how a signum function is defined. In terms of unit step function, we can write signum function as this: u of t minus u of minus t, right? U of t, it looks something like this. It is 1 for t greater than 0 minus u of minus t. U of minus t is 1 for t less than 0, right? For all values of t less than 0, u of minus t is 1. So when you subtract this signal from this signal, we'll get, for values of t greater than 0, what will happen? 1 minus 0, it is 1. For values of t less than 0, 0 minus 1, that is -1. At t equals to 0, it is 1 minus 1, 0, right? So that is a signal function. Next one is a parabolic function. It is defined as x of t is equal to a into t square by 2. A into t square by 2 for positive values of t, 0 for negative values of t. Right? This is the graphical representation of parabolic function. When a is 1, we call this as a unit parabolic function. The next one is a rectangular pulse or gate function, or a rectangular function, right? This is a very important signal. We can denote it with rect of t or pi of t, or we can also call it a gate function. So how is it defined? It is defined as 0 for mod t greater than 1 by 2 and 1 for mod t less than 1 by 2. So if the value of t is greater than 1 by 2, if the value of mod t is greater than 1 by 2, it is 0, that is this part. And if the value of mod t is less than 1 by 2, it is 1, right? It is also called unit pulse signal, right? In terms of unit step function, we can write it as rectangular pulse or rect of t or pi of t is equal to u of t plus half minus u of t minus half, right? Generally, we can, instead of half, I can write a. Instead of half, I can write a, right? Instead of half, I can also write as a. Then this becomes minus a, and this becomes plus a. So any rectangular function pi of t can also be written as u of t plus a u of t plus a minus u of t minus a. That is also a possibility. Then triangular pulse. It looks like a triangle, right? If mod t is in between minus a and a, if t is in between minus a and a, that is mod t is less than or equal to a, the value is 1 minus mod t by a. For values of mod t greater than a, it is 0. Then we have last two functions. One is sampling function, the other one is sinc function. Sampling function is defined as sin t by t, sin t by t. It is denoted by SA of t, SA of t. Sin t by t is denoted as SA by t. Sampling of t is equal to sin t divided by t. So this is how the sampling signal looks like, right? We have the main lobe here. This is the main lobe, and this is the side loops. At x equal to 0, sampling of t is equals to 1. Yes, right? So how do we get this thing? Sampling of t is sine t by t. Sine 0 by 0, that is 0 by 0 undefined form. So we'll apply L'Hospital's rule. If you apply L'Hospital's rule, what does this become? This becomes cos t divided by 1. Now when t is equals to 0, this is t, sorry. Now when t is equals to 0, it becomes cos 0 is 1 divided by 1. So sampling of t is 1 at t is equal to 0. And another important property of sampling function is the zero crossings. Where does the zero crossing occur? Where does this function cross your x-axis, right? This is my x-axis, right? Where does your sampling function cross the x-axis? So this is sine t by t, right? Sine t by t. This must be equal to 0, right? Whenever this crosses the x-axis or my time axis, the value of the function should be equal to 0 at this point, right? It must be equal to 0. Now that implies my sine t is 0, right? When is your sine function 0? Sine function is 0 when this t is a integral multiple of pi, right? Whenever this t is integral multiple of pi, your sine t is 0. That means t is equals to positive and negative values of n pi. N equals to 0, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, and so on, right? At 0, plus or minus pi, plus or minus 2 pi, and so on. So if we take sampling of 2t, right? Sampling of 2t means sine 2t by 2t. Where will the zero crossings occur for this? When this is 0. When is this 0? When my 2t is equals to plus or minus n pi. That means if I get this to this side, it becomes t is equal to plus or minus n pi by 2. So my zero crossings occur at plus or minus n pi by 2. That means at 0, and when n is equal to 1, at pi by 2 and 2 pi by 2 and so on, right? For sampling of 2t. Sampling of 2t. Now sinc function. This is also similar to sampling function, but slight change in the definition, right? Sinc function is defined as sine of pi t by pi t. Previously sampling function was defined as sine of t by t. In place of t, if we put pi t, it is sinc function. So sinc function of t is same as sampling of pi t. So when t is equals to 0, again sinc of t is equals to 1. Similar to how we derived the value of sampling function at t is equal to 0. And then zero crossings also. So sine of pi t by pi t, sine of pi t by pi t must be equals to 0 when my pi t is equals to plus or minus n pi, plus or minus n pi. So pi cancel when t is equal to plus or minus n. So plus or minus n, 0, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2. That is when my sinc function crosses the x-axis, the time axis. Right? Similarly, for sinc of 2t, the zero crossings will occur at plus or minus n by 2. So that is the end of elementary signals.